Welcome everyone to this week's broadcast. What's wrong with premarital intimacy? Hello, this is Rabbi Pearl on a very serious subject. What's wrong with premarital intimacy? The question often asked, I've been dating a man for the past 6 months and he says it's time to get serious. I agree. Except that we differ in how we define that. In my mind, getting serious means to talk about marriage. In his mind, it means getting intimate. I'm starting to feel pressure to follow his lead. What do you think? Allow me to share some thoughts. Unlike other religions, Jewish religious leaders are not celibate. Judaism believes that intimacy is one of the highest forms of spiritual expression and accepts the notion that God gave us this intense drive to direct it in a positive manner. In Jewish thought, physical intimacy contains within it the highest potential for spirituality. It is one of the greatest means a married couple is given to express holiness. Like any other means, however, its use depends completely on the expression given to it by the individuals involved. This union is like a canvas in the control of artists, husband and wife, and the spiritual message they produce can be meaningless or it can be a masterpiece. The longing one has for intimacy is really an expression of the longing for completion, to be intimately joined with the other half. Through this relationship, we express this by becoming bound together as one. That's what marriage is all about. Through marriage, a man and woman are committed for a lifetime. They are totally given over to one another. And intimacy becomes a way of expressing and actualizing this total oneness. Outside of marriage, relations are ultimately frustrating because oneness can never be fully achieved. This is obviously true in regard to a short-term encounter. But even in a long-term setting, without the commitment of marriage, there is always the option of leaving the relationship. As a result, the degree of connectedness reaches a barrier. Naturally, a person has to get to know the person they're going to get married to by talking about life goals, personal preferences, etc. It is also important that the couple find each other physically attractive. But you don't have to sleep together for that. Ironically, studies have shown that couples who lived together before marriage are more likely, sadly, to get divorced early in marriage. There is a simple reason for this. When a man and woman live together, they approach their relationship very differently than they would as a married couple. Finances, personal interests, house chores, social lives, major decisions, minor decisions, resolving conflict, family and children, expectations about the future are all dealt with from a perspective of two individuals who lack a common lifetime goal. When they get married, expectations often change. The rules are different. The resulting tensions is something that the couple may be unable to overcome. So let me share with you a list of 10 reasons not to have premarital relations. Number 1, it clouds one's objectivity. Pleasurable physical contact creates a bond, a physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual bond. You are already committed without focusing on important issues. Once the physical aspect takes off, you're so drawn in that you stay in the relationship even though you don't like the person. It becomes a relationship of convenience, not love. The real danger is in getting comfortable and then getting married. The second reason, it focuses away from developing communications in the relationship. Imagine that you have a little fight. Should we hug or make up? Or learn other non-physical ways of affection? Without the smokescreen of physical intimacy, there will be a greater need to communicate verbally and emotionally. Number 3, another reason why not to have premarital intimacy. Let's be honest, it cheapens your self-worth. If you give intimacy to just anyone, you cheapen yourself, your sense of self. The more selective you are, the more valued you are. A 4th reason, it makes you prone to getting hurt. In premarital relations, a person is emotionally exposed and vulnerable. When they fail to receive the expected emotional reciprocation in return, what happens? The result is garnished, is hurt. A marital commitment demonstrates that the man sees his wife as a whole human being, not just an object of physical desire. Many women get confused about a man's intentions and are hurt when they later find out the truth afterwards, and they regret it. A 5th reason, you become cynical about relationships. Repeated hurt makes you stop believing the real commitment is possible. Remember your optimism about the first one? Now you will carry the baggage of shattered illusions into marriage. A 6th reason, you become desensitized to the special experience. What is the power of a handhold, a gentle kiss? We live in a society in which people treat sexuality casually. We have lost the sense of the specialness of intimate behavior by which people express their love. In Jewish consciousness, a married couple express the intimacy between them in a whole range of ways. The way they look at each other, the way they speak to each other, the way they behave in front of each other. If you use loving language for casual encounters, then when you want to use it later in marriage, it rings hollow. It's garnished. A 7th reason, not to have relations before marriage. You're going to be comparing your spouse to others. After many partners, a person has experienced different physical features and activities. They now have a composite picture of the ultimate partner. But who will ever be able to match up to all those fantasies? It is a primary rule in marriage. Don't ever compare your spouse to someone else. For example, my mother cooked it this way. Since every experience stays in your subconscious, it'll be much more harder to forge a total bond with your spouse under those circumstances. There's another reason, an 8th reason, the myth of sexual compatibility. Surprisingly, incompatibility is less likely when a couple has no experience to begin with. They each have a clean slate, so to speak, are not comparing their spouse to a past lover. They can grow together in their intimacy, just as they grow together in their emotional and spiritual lives. Any initial incompatibility is usually just shyness or lack of, of familiarity. As the couple gets to know each other better, as trust grows, they become naturally compatible. You know what? Marital counselors say that they have never seen a couple break up solely on the issue of relations. Problems of intimacy are merely a symptom of other problems. A 9th reason, it removes the incentive to commit. When you agree to premarital relations, you're already given away much of what you have to give. If one side is pressuring the other by saying, if you really love me, you'd be intimate with me, you can respond, if you really love me, you wouldn't pressure me. And the 10th reason is, you know what? In the Torah, these kinds of activities create an eternal. You're attached for eternity. The Torah tells us in the Genesis, when it speaks about a sexual relationship, and it uses the words to sleep with her and to be with her. And the Talmud tells us in Tractate Sota, explains what does it mean to sleep with her, refers to the intimate bond created by the experience. And to be with her refers to the afterlife. So intimacy creates a deep soul bond, and whether you are together for one night or a few years, you will experience that bond in the eternal spiritual side. So even if you may go on and marry someone else, there's always going to be some attachment someplace on many, many levels. So dear friends, this is a very serious subject, and I appreciate the opportunity you give me to be able to share with you some Torah thoughts on this very, very essential subject. Thank you, and all the best.